1 2 and what it do? It's your boy Snacks, and we back with another episode of Just Hear Me Out. We on episode 50, baby. We chugging right along. And it has been a good week for your boy. I still on my fitness journey. I done ate a couple good things, but here it is Sunday, and tomorrow is my check-in, and it's looking like it's going to be a good check-in. I was nervous because I was on a little more BS than what I normally am. Somebody who was trying to help me on my journey made me like 3 different desserts, and they put protein in them. I mean, but they put everything else that come in those desserts. So, well, except for one of them. They made banana nut bread. Now, the banana nut bread was probably the purest of the healthiest snacks because it was only bananas, nuts, and they used protein powder for flour, I think. And they may have added a couple of extra things as far as seasoning goes. But they also made me a chocolate cake, which had protein in it. And they made me some chocolate chip cookies, which had protein in it. And I think all they did to make it healthy was just swap either some of the flour that goes in those recipes or all of the flour that goes in those recipes with unflavored protein powder. So, but it still had the sugar in it, and everything else that came in it. So those probably wasn't the healthiest, although they were packed with protein. So they were definitely desserts, probably just a little more satiating. So, yeah, so, you know, and I've been eating them like every day, just, you know, nibbling at them. Now, the banana nut bread I have in the morning for breakfast, with my coffee. That just banana nut bread. Matter of fact, Otis Spunkmeyer banana nut muffin on my go-to. That's how come they knew that was one of the things that they could make for me. And then, you know, the chocolate cake, because they have made a chocolate cake in the past that was phenomenal. When I wasn't trying to lose weight, they made me a chocolate cake that was just so good. But they did it again, and they was like, I'm gonna just add some protein, you know. So I'll just put some protein in it so it could be healthy for you. And so it was more satiating. I mean, I could eat some of the cake and maybe not eat more cake than I would if it didn't have no protein in it. And the chocolate chip cookies, you know, they are amazing as well. So I've been nibbling on that all week, which has been, you know, slowing down progress, coupled with the idea that my treadmill has been broken. And so I haven't been able to go to the gym as often or get in the steps. I think like I missed a couple days where I didn't get 10,000 steps at all, friends. I didn't get my 10,000 steps at all. But, and then when the weekend came, I tried to make up for it. I did some yesterday. I'm trying to remember. Or maybe yesterday was one of the days I didn't. But today, I really got it in and then got on the scale afterwards. And the scale said I was down points on a pound, but still down. Now, hopefully I can maintain this down till tomorrow, which literally is only like another 9 hours away. Yeah, we're going to see. We gonna see. The other thing I did this week is I bought some plants for the house. I know I'm just catching y'all up on my life, and it's not news, but this is my life. This is my podcast, and yeah. So just catching you up to speed. I bought me some plants in the house. It's something I had been wanting to do in the apartment. It's something I've been wanting to do for a good while. I like having, you know, vegetation, live vegetation, around in my living space. So I was able to take care of that this weekend. That felt good. I bought me a money tree. I can't even tell you what the other two, a money tree and a leafy something, and a bloom field, yeah, something like that. But anyway, 3 plants. I love them. And I already gave them names. I gave them names already. I got one of them is Anastasia. One of them is named Kool-Aid, and the other one is named Big Bank. The money tree, of course, is named Big Bank. Kool-Aid is because it has a red flower that's growing out of one part, and a yellow flower that's growing out another part. So it just looked like Kool-Aid, and it's not even a flower. It's really leafy. If it is a flower, it's really leafy. I'm interested in what's going to happen with those. But yeah, and then the other one is it's like it's just tall with some big fat leaves on it. I was going for a peace lily at first until I seen that. Then I was like, wait a minute, that look kind of dope. And I think both of those, the money tree and the leafy something, I can't remember the last name of it. Maybe if I get time, I'll post a picture in here for those that are watching on the YouTube. But yeah, they both supposed to grow rather tall and can get up to the ceiling of my apartment. That's going to be interesting, right? But other than that, that's been my week. I've been going to work on the show that I'm working on, and I've been doing a little Ubering and lifting on the side. I got a family reunion coming up next week, and I have to go out of town for that. So, trying to give me some extra money for that. But anyway, listen, we're going to jump right into the news. And the first headline is still old news, and it's actually finna become older news. It's really going to be a dead story until they get through the processes. And that's Anthony Carmelo. He gets a new legal team, after they had found him guilty and sentenced him to 35 years with 17 possibility a parole in 17. A pro bono team picked it up. They said what they're going to do is look for legal errors in the process, hopefully to use that to get his sentence knocked down. I already told y'all how I feel about it. I think if anytime a man dies, somebody has to pay for that. So he is guilty and he does need to, spend some time in jail, but not no 35 years. I think that's a bit harsh. And it's interesting because the last episode we had, episode 49, I went in detail about it and posted it to my socials, and I definitely was getting some emotional feedback from both white and black folks. And it was interesting because both parties pretty much, at least, in my small pool of friends, seemed to say the same thing, and that biggest thing was you don't bring a knife to school. Why did he have a knife at a school function? And they found that to be the worst thing, which, I mean, I get it. He shouldn't have a knife at school, but how many people bring knives to school? Hell, I mean, people bring guns to school. And I'm not saying that's okay. But if that, I think that just starting off in the wrong. If that's what you're going to look at, okay, he done a bad thing by bringing a knife to school. That still don't justify 35 years. How many other people bring these things to school and they bring it and go home and nobody knows the difference? If you get caught with it, what happens? You're going to go to jail. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's, everybody's bringing up that part. But I'm not arguing if he's guilty. I'm with you that he's guilty. He's guilty of murder. I mean, I think it's lame. He could have fought, but I spent enough on last episode talking about it. I only really kind of talking about the part where he had got a legal team and they're going to seek an appeal. But that appeal may not come up for a decision until later on this year. And that's if it doesn't go to state or federal. If they have to go to the state or federal courts, then it's going to be, it's going to be more than a year before they'll see that. But that was that story. I wanted to come back and touch on it a little more since I had been covering it for like the last 2-3 shows. But he's looking for legal errors. He's got a team of folks that's taking up the case. And they're going to look for errors and see if they can get him appeal. I hope he gets an appeal. I want him to get an appeal. He deserves an appeal. 35 years is too long. They need to cut that down. They need to cut that down at the max 15. At the max 15. That's the max. You know what I'm saying? 5 to 10, to 15 should be the max. There's no way you should be spending 35 years of his life in jail over an accident. And, People are talking about, that's what I wanted to, I was trying to remember what else that I wanted to add to the story, because the people that are bringing up, well, you shouldn't have a knife on at school grounds. Well, you shouldn't be fighting on the school grounds. And if we remember, Anthony wasn't the aggressor, right? Now, of course, he was in the wrong tent. Now, we want to talk about the wrong in bringing a knife to school, but Fighting on school grounds is also wrong. We shouldn't be fighting, right? Now you're going to say, well, fights happen on the school grounds. Well, so do people bringing knives to school. And we probably just don't know, but on just as much as a regular basis as them fights, if not more than fights, people are probably bringing weapons to school. Way more than there are fights at the school. So if you're going to talk about the knives, let's also talk about the fighting. Because if Austin and Hunter wouldn't have been so physically aggressive, this wouldn't have happened. And I'm not putting it on them. I'm putting it on them. And to me, again, we go back to saying these are just 17-year-old boys, teenagers. They ain't got it all there. And hell, some people my age, and they ain't even got it all there. So it's tragic, of course, but it's not tragic enough for him to spend 35 years in prison. That's too much. Over an accident, again, over an accident. And I could harp on it more, but to those who want to harp on the knife at the school grounds, you also shouldn't be fighting on school grounds. You shouldn't be trying to put your hands on somebody on school grounds. You know? Yeah, and we also will say, if somebody didn't die, we would say you can't ever tell somebody how to respond. And when it comes to violence, you can't really tell somebody how to respond if they're being aggressed on. And we know they started the fight with the pushing. He told them not to touch him. That's what he said. He said that. But anyway, we're not gonna harp on it too long. That's enough of that. We're gonna move on that. You know, and that this story is probably gonna die unless something new and sensational comes up. This is probably the last that you'll hear about this until they get ready to decide on whether they'll get that appeal or not. The next story we're going to talk about, actually, we're not going to talk about, but we are going to talk about because I wanted to talk about it, but we're not going to talk about it. You feel me? And that will be Big Tigger. Big Tigger gets arrested, which was a host of Rap City back in the day, you know, and he's a big radio host here in Atlanta. Well, he got arrested for a domestic. And it's likened to this Carmelo thing in that, you know, other than Hunter dying, it's childish stuff. After so much information I seen with this whole Big Tigger thing, you know, I think it started off with his wife posting on social media crying. And she didn't say nothing. She just posted on social media a video of her crying. Her face was messed up. She had a big black eye and a big gash over one eye. And I think they said her lip was busted, but I can't remember if on the video her lip was busted in that crying. And all she did was cry. And people asked her in the comments, and then she said, "Ask my husband about why my face looks like this." All eyes went to Tigger. We thinking it's domestic. We thinking he beat her up, and he got on the radio and he said, no, I didn't. These allegations, these things that y'all are saying, I ain't do it. Now, what it was over was she was suspicious of him having an affair with someone, or over text messages, or an affair with someone. Basically, she was just suspicious. And you know how that get. If there's any suspicion, man or women, things could get kind of crazy. And that's literally all that happened. Things got crazy. She was, she provoked him. When the video came out, because there was a whole video. Well, first off, let me come back to say, and I'm kind of covering the story anyway, but I got an overall general thought on it that I'm going to say once I finish covering it as far as what had happened. So she posted a video of her crying, didn't say nothing, but in the comments said, "Ask my husband about what happened to my face." Big Tigger gets up and make a statement. These allegations, I didn't do it. That's not what happened. Yada, yada, blah, blah, blah. She posts and literally says, "I never told y'all that he did anything to me. I never told y'all that, that he hit me or anything like that." She really was trying to clean it up a little bit, because she left the suspicion there, but then came back to clean it up. But you could tell because she brought up the legal team after investigations have been done. The legal team probably was telling her to clear it up. I also probably suspect that he was, listen, this is defamation. You got these people thinking that I did something that I didn't do to you. Your face is messed up, but I didn't physically touch you to do that. This is you trying to make me look bad, which is literally what she was doing when she posted that video of her crying, but didn't tell you what happened. Um, but yeah, then a video gets released and you literally see what happened. And she's crashing out on him. And it seems as if she's tearing up his stuff. And he trying to stop her from tearing up the stuff. And she tries to break away from him, and he's trying to de-escalate the situation, or at least get her to calm down because she's tearing his shit up. And she falls, and that's what happens to her face. And then you learn at the end of the day, it's regular auntie uncles type stuff. If you got a family with an uncle and an auntie that got any kind of bad relationship, and hell, even if you ain't got one that ain't got no bad relationship, this is regular relationship type stuff. When suspicions fly, especially if one of them is in the clear, you can't really clear up suspicions. You know what I'm saying? If they really believing that that's what you was doing, well, it's kind of hard to get that out of people's heads, right? And then they're gonna run with that, and all you need is a little craze, a little drama, and next thing you know, you in that same type position, or you've seen it. So what I want to say, just like this Carmelo type thing, this is regular stuff that gets blown out of proportion. It's just in Anthony Carmelo and the Metcalfs, it ended up in somebody dying. But it was regular type stuff. I think all the sensationalizing in the middle of it is regular, because it's regular that, boys are fighting. Just one of them got killed. And at the note of that, somebody needs to go to jail. But I've said that in the last episode. Anytime somebody die, somebody got to pay for that. You don't just be out here walking around after somebody loses their life. There's this fly in here, and this is a fly in the studio. Same thing with and the thing about Big Tigger and his old lady type stuff. Old lady type stuff. I mean, I've had friends, they got a good relationship in public, but in private, it may get a little tumultuous. And this is the older you get, you learn that, this is just the way of love. Relationships, people try to say that they're excluded from it, but I will be willing to bet that half of all relationships see that type of action. If you are together long enough, you're bound to, unless you live alone on a farm and ain't nobody else around. But if there's anybody else around, you're going to run into issues. And that's just the way it is. So this whole thing, I'm surprised. Well, I'm not surprised that it's not getting way more attention, because at the end of the day, you look at it and you be like, them fools, they just, this regular relationship type stuff, and somebody's probably a little crazy in the relationship. Sometimes it's the husband, sometimes it's the wife, sometimes it's both of them, and they fighting in the streets. Sometimes it's uncle and auntie. At every family gathering, the mofos going at each other hard. And even the cops may get called. And somebody may go to jail for a night or two. But guess what? The next weekend or two, the mofos back in each other's arms, back at the next family gathering, as if nothing ain't ever happened. That's just the way it is, So that's that story. We're going to move on to the next one. And that is this rap album that dropped this Friday. Your boy T.I. is back. Well, I mean, he back with an album saying that he gone after this. Boy, this fly. Man, this really might turn into a real sheesh. But it's fly. This is crazy. Anyway, T.I. dropped the album this weekend called Kill the King. And listen, first off, let me say this. I'm always glad when a rapper my age puts out an album, especially if I was a fan of his coming up, or if he'd been doing it a long time and he continues to work his craft even in his older ages. Because I still like rap at 46, and I still want to hear some new music. I don't always want to hear the same old albums from him. I would like to hear some new stuff. You know what I'm saying? I would like to hear, what's going on in his life and how he living, and his bars. Yeah, and what he got, if he still got it. And I'm going to say that on the album, he still got it verse wise. But the album itself is mediocre. The album is mediocre. I'm sorry. Listen, and T.I. is my guy. I love T.I. I love a slew of songs and know the songs. But as a fan, I think I can say I got room enough to say that this album is mediocre, man. You know what I'm talking about? He talking about, and he got a whole song say I don't want no mediocre. And then his album is mediocre. It gives laid back. It gives, it just don't got no fire on that thing. You feel me? And it's crazy because he was on Breakfast Club. I listened to a Breakfast Club interview with him last week where Charlamagne asked him, does the album have bangers on it? And I think T.I.'s response was like, if you wanted to have some bangers. And, Charlamagne tried to push him again. He was like, if you wanted it, I mean, yeah. Let me tell you something right now. That album don't got not one banger on it. I'm sorry. And I love T.I. I'm a T.I. fan. I love the music. If T.I. was to do a concert, I'll try to go to the one he had last year, toward the end of the year, here in the A. And I think he might have said it was going to be his last time being on stage. Maybe, but no, because he on tour now. So they couldn't have been. It might have been another artist that was talking about it was going to be their last time on stage. But I love the album. But listen, it is mediocre. There ain't no bangers on it. Matter of fact, and I'm learning one thing, that rappers our age, they probably not going to put out no bangers. When you rapping at this age, and I want you to rap at this age because there's relevance in your life for me if you rap about your life at this moment, but it's only two kinds of places you're gonna play, and that would be true of this T.I. album. That whole album, the best places he gonna get played at is at weddings, and he don't even got no strip club album on here, but a strip club, and ain't got no party songs, ain't got no bangers, no club bangers. To be honest, he ain't got no strip club banger on here. And that's probably, I think, the peak of what a 40-something-year-old rapper is going to be able to put out. You ain't finna put out nothing that's going to be no banger in the club, not at 40, unless you're going to talk about, and that's not at 40-something and up, because what you going to talk about? You're going to talk about selling drugs. You're going to talk about, being your bravado and your ego. Nah, because the older you get, the more you let go of that type thing. Even on the Breakfast Club, he didn't appear as one would, an ego. Matter of fact, the album would say Kill the King. You know what I mean? Yeah. The album got maybe 3 good songs on it, and they not the first 8. And to me, typically a good album, the first 8 songs, or the first 5 songs, in my opinion, between the first 5, the first 8 should have at least 2-3 good bangers on it. If you got a good album, that's my litmus test. Now, this might not be everybody else's. And I've been listening to rap music since I was a kid. If your first half don't got nothing on it, your album is really not that great. And this album is not that great. I had to find good songs, and they not to the end. He got what I think, And Won't is a good song. Gorgeous is a good song, and Represent a Time. And I don't remember if And Won't had a feature, but Gorgeous had Usher on it. And Represent a Time had Young Dro. And from what I remember, I was like, dang, Dro was underrated, and Dro don't got enough material, in my opinion. And Dro showing up on the album brought more excitement than any of T.I. songs on the album. And I am a T.I. fan. This one ain't for me. I have to go back to listen to the older ones. You know what I'm saying? Because these ain't the ones. This album ain't. There ain't no bangers on the album. Not one. He relaxing. I mean, on the Breakfast Club, he said, He came back from golfing and enjoying his life, vacationing and enjoying his life to make this album. And he want to go back. And that's what that album sounds like, sir. You out here golfing. You ain't, but even still, and maybe that is what we have to learn to settle for in listening to our peer artists that are our peers or our age range, is that it's not going to be no bangers. But and I'm not mad that there ain't no bangers, but you said it was some bangers. So now I'm looking for bangers and ain't no bangers on the album. So yeah. And ain't no bangers on the album. So the last story I wanted to talk about this pastor in Louisiana. I'm gonna just touch on it real quick. As I'm exiting, because we're gonna wrap this episode up. But this pastor in Louisiana that got caught beating up somebody that came to threaten his family, and I wanted to make a statement using that. If you hadn't seen it, it's Googleable. Pastor in Louisiana puts his hands on somebody, and you literally see the video of him beating the smithereens out of a man who walked up and said, "I'm finna rape your wife. I'm finna kill your kids," and he was making all kind of threats. And when I tell you, this pastor opened up a can of whip on that man, he opened up that can of whip ass. And I wanted to come through to say, I think it's too often that Christians and pastors are looked at in an unfair light. We forget that they are men as we are, and come under the same judgment. And you know what I'm saying? Because you if you believe in God, and I guess more so I'm making this appeal to people who will call themselves Christians. If you really don't call yourself Christian, it's hard to make that case. It's hard to deal with you judging, because you don't got no litmus test. Ain't nobody judging you. You don't got nobody judging you. So you can do what you want to do. But I think, or maybe a little logic will tell you that, hey, even though I preach love and forgiveness and long suffering, some things just won't be tolerated. And he's just a man. He's just a man. We look at when we think about at least pastors, they come under judgment, right? Even the Bible says that, or it leads you to believe that those who are in leadership will come under greater judgment. Well, who are they going to come under judgment from? And that will be God, not you, because you are just like them, and probably should be showing them some grace. The same grace that you would want shown to you, the same grace that you show, to yourself when you know what you be doing. It's the same grace I think that you should show to not just pastors, but Christians. And maybe not just pastors and Christians, but maybe to your next door neighbor. Maybe to those around you, not to be so hard on them, so judgmental, as if you're better than them. Because we all stand up under the same God, to be judged by the same God. And if you don't have no faith, we're all under the same sun. We all go to work the same way. We all go through the same things, and where you may be proficient, long-suffering, and understanding, they may miss it. But I guarantee if you get to know them just a little bit, you may find that they are better in areas in their life where you lack. If we would only take time to examine ourselves, I think we would learn to give grace to those around us. Yeah, and I wanted to touch on it because I know, growing up Christian, people would expect you to be, better than them. We hold fast to righteousness, and we preach righteousness, and we preach right living. But I want to inform you that all they're doing is preaching about a righteousness that they themselves struggle with. And man, it would do you good when you look at them to remember that. But you definitely, should remember that they are human just like you are. And though they may be judged with a greater judgment, that judgment and that judge is not you. You are not him. There's only one that judges. And so, giving grace, giving understanding, being a little more loving. This is where, the verse where Jesus says, love others as you would love yourself. And you know what you're capable of. You know what you think in your heart and do in the dark. You know. And do you judge yourself? I would say judge them with that same judgment that you judge yourself. I think if you do that, that would be enough. Even outside of, religion, all you need, even outside of religion, inside and outside, to be honest, but just a little self-awareness, a little self-examination about how you are, how you think, how you live, what things that you do and feel that others may say, that's not right. Before you go out passing judgment. And, I don't really think that I didn't see in the comments, or I didn't see anybody really judging the pastor because he beat the brakes off of that boy. But he came threatening his family. Shoes. When we talk about the Bible and we talk about God, listen, God, if you read the Bible enough, you'll see God is bloody. And I'm not even just talking about the sacrifices he asked to give in the Old Testament. I'm talking about the things he would tell you to do to people, to whole cities of people. You know what I mean? Yeah. But anyway, shoes. That was my word for the day about, giving grace to people, not being so judgmental, making room for other people. You want excuses to be made for you. Perhaps you should pass out some. Give everybody a little room because you want some room. And in that, we'll find love. And with that is episode 50 of Just Hear Me Out podcast. I need to get me an intro. I need to get me an outro. I got to go back because, in the beginning of the show, or when we first started this thing, I had a co-host, and that's what's in the intro and the outro. And we still friends, and, he busy. I got to get that thing changed, and I will. But anyway, it's your boy Snacks. Thank you again for listening. I appreciate it. Wherever you see this, like, comment, and subscribe. I try to respond to everything and everyone. I hope y'all have a good week and a good 4th of July. I hope y'all are enjoying these soccer games. Yeah. All right. Y'all take it easy. Deuces.
Just Hear Me Out podcast with Snacks and Big Flav. Not a tongue bitten and always worth the listen. Weekly on your favorite platform.